Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and it's my last review today, I promise. Number 5, and yet another true story. All of these have been true stories, and this is about Breathe. This film is about a man who gets polio, and then because of his friends is able to figure out a way to create a chair that allows him to go around and breathe for him. And starring Andrew Garfield, but the most intriguing thing I thought about this film is it's directed by Andy Serkis. Yes, Andy Serkis. And this is like the first film I'm seeing that he's directed, especially before his Jungle Book film is going to be coming out. And I was crossing my fingers hoping that this wasn't just going to be a bunch of fluff. It is quite a bit of fluff, but it's some good fluff, and we're going to talk about more of it. I think Andy Serkis does a fine job of telling the story, and it's one of those stories that's dragged across a long period of time, but I think towards the beginning, a lot of stuff is a little glossed over. Like, him falling in love with his wife is like that. You getting to really see him living his life before he gets polio, like that. And then you're in it. And I wish that they took a little more time to flesh out that, where how he fell in love with his wife and why she would stick with him through all of this. And then his life beforehand, what's really making it hard for him to live without. You do get quick shots of everything, but I feel like it should have been more fleshed out at the beginning. And this film does drag a bit. It's 2 hours. I don't think it really needed to be, but it doesn't focus on the things that it probably should have, and it does keep going. And I think that hurts it in some way. Tonally, there's moments where it does really hit hard emotionally, and you're really getting those moments, and they feel very real, and there's some stakes in here. But I think most of the film is too fluffy and super obnoxiously optimistic that it does take away from some of those heavier moments. Now, the cinematography done by Robert Richardson is amazing. The shots in this are beautiful, how everything's framed. The symmetry is so great, and the planes flying through the air and the landscape, and you're really getting a sense of the world that's around him, because that's important. If you see the beauty and the immense love that he has for the world around him, and we get to experience that, then we feel more about what he's losing. And I think that this film does a really good job of portraying all that and letting us see what he's missing out on. And that's what's something that's going to make this more impactful. It was written by William Nicholson. The story is pretty straight. It is a fascinating story, but it's pretty by the numbers, jumping through time, jumping long periods of time, and it feels like the highlights, the greatest hits of this person's life, and not really digging deep into his struggle as much. Except there's a few parts, especially when he's stuck in the hospital for the first time, where you really get the feel, oh my god, I'm really in this. And going back to the cinematography, there's shots so close up, and you can feel the trembling in his eyes, and just those really close shots really get to flesh out everything that he was really feeling. Now, the characters, honestly, they're not super fleshed out, or you get to obviously get a lot more out of our main husband and wife in this film, but a lot of the other characters are just kind of there, and honestly wouldn't be as memorable without the performances in this film, which I'll get to. But you really don't get to see a whole really deep look into it. And from a tonal thing, it is a bit fluffy, and there's a lot of fun, goofy dialogue and kind of cheesy dialogue, but it does hit on some important things, the themes of life and surviving versus actually living. And in terms of the acting, Andrew Garfield does a really good job. He brings a lot of charisma to this role, and there's scenes where you do get to really feel it, but I don't think this is close to his best performance. The Silence and Hacksaw Ridge really stuck out to me last year, and I don't think this is something on the same level. Claire Foy does a fine job in this film, and you really get to feel things for her, and she does get her moments, but it isn't like on the same level as, say, Alicia Vikander from The Danish Girl or Felicity Jones from Theory of Everything, where this long-suffering wife really gets fleshed out and you really get to feel for her. You don't get that as much in this film. And Tom Hollander plays her twin brothers, and I thought he was great in both of the roles. He really stuck out as a supporting character. I only used to know him from Pirates of the Caribbean for being Cutler Beckett, slimy piece of crap. But I've seen him in more things lately, and I really appreciate him as an actor. And then Hugh Bonneville pops up as his friend who creates his chair, and I think he did a fine job. He's very charming. Doesn't get a whole lot of depth to him, but he is a reliable supporting character in this film. And I have to say, this is mostly fluff, but it's some good fluff, and still does hit emotionally at moments. If you like that kind of film and kind of fluffy love story, I think this is a good film for you. Or are you looking for something that should be like Oscar-worthy period piece? Not this one. I'm gonna give Breathe a C+.